In the meantime, back to the economy, and existing home sales edging up in September continue what has been an improving trend for the real estate market. The question is, for how long? The real estate expert Jason Meister on where he thinks things go. What do you think, Jason?
I think that a low interest rate environment and job growth, an economy that sets records every couple of months, weeks, I think those things lend for a robust housing market. I think that we're going to see that eventually in the longer term. But in the shorter term, I think we still have to deal with money's been free for 8 years before Trump took his office. And we're still dealing with some of the policies from the last administration. And I think that that will have a short-term negative impact on the housing market. There's some asset bubbles that got created. We overdeveloped in cities like Manhattan, San Francisco, Miami. Overseas buyers have pulled back. So we have some short-term problems we have to deal with. But long-term, I think we're going to have a robust housing market.
All right. You hear about pockets of the country. You mentioned Manhattan. You, by the way, were one of the first onto that. But leaving that aside, that there is enough demand, the question is there enough supply? Invariably, you run across regions of the country where there isn't, at least at certain price points. So
sure.
Sort that out.
So real estate's local. There's plenty of supply in Manhattan. There's plenty of supply in Miami. In fact, there's an oversupply. We've developed too much. Everyone became a developer because money was free.
Right.
But in other areas of the country, there's a shortage of supply. So it's really local markets that we have to look at, and it's hard to really say, to give a national answer to that.
But you hear that, yeah, leaving some of the extremes out, like the New York metropolitan area, and as you say, Miami. You hear a lot of people say that even as low as interest rates are, they're ticking up a little bit here, and nothing like they were. We just celebrated or remembered the 30th anniversary of the crash when rates were double digits. It's tough for people going through the process of getting a loan. It's a hellish process, and it's not much less so. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's tough. We want it to be somewhat difficult, right, because we have that 08 problem, and we want to make sure that there's skin in the game, that there's a real deposit, so that we don't have people that are just getting foreclosed on and they don't care. But I think that we are going to see an administration that's going to take some regulations off of businesses and
do you worry they go too far? Because I was thinking what you're thinking, that not that we necessarily go the no-doc loan route or anyone with a pulse gets a mortgage and all, but do you worry that you go too aggressive on the dropping the regulation thing?
I do worry about that. I think there has to be skin in the game. I think if you look at Canada, there's housing markets that work when you have people that actually have money invested in their homes, and we don't want to go back to that 08 era.
Yeah. What about just the mood of buyers today? A lot of them are buoyed, certainly the markets are buoyed by the prospect of tax cuts, and they're going to have more cash on hand. Does that factor into your housing forecast at all?
I think it factors in for sure. I think that if there's job growth and their wages are growing, they're going to buy homes. They buy homes with their jobs.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that I'm very concerned about is that we don't have the tool to drop interest rates. So if we do flatline, or if we do enter a recession, which I don't see it happening right now, but if we did in the near term, we don't have that tool in our toolbox. I think tax reform must be passed. I think that that's the only thing that can really get us going and get the economy moving.
Do you pay attention to who's being considered for the Federal Reserve chairmanship? Now, today, these reports that Janet Yellen and Gary Cohn are having lunch together at the White House, that one or the other are being considered. Does it matter to you?
It doesn't matter. I'm not really paying too much attention to it.
All right, so you're not, let's say, looking for someone who's dovish on rates versus someone who's going to be more of a hawk?
I think the economy is going to drive that. I don't think it's going to be a single person.
So what if we have tax cuts, and then to offset that and the growth and the oomph we might get in the economy, you have an aggressive run-up in rates? Do you envision that?
I don't. We're not going to have an aggressive run-up in rates. We're going to have a slow, sort of steady rise in rates.
All right. For young people who don't know what it's like to get mortgages much higher than where they are now, just a slight uptick is enough to get them out of the market, should it?
You know, I think that actually young people today, millennials, they don't have the same view of home ownership that you did, and my parents and my grandparents did. I was playing with Legos in 1987, but you know, I think
so was I, as I was covering the crash. It was the weirdest combination. But go ahead.
But I think that more young people are renting. They're staying in the rental market longer.
Yes.
I think that they will dip their toe. I think if interest rates rise, they won't dip as quickly into the market.
But it's not as sacred an investment to them. It carries none of that.
Not the same. And I think there's a lot of fear of what they saw happen to some people in 08 and 09.
Yeah, they have memories of that. All right, Jason, always good seeing you. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.